I recently got to see Warner Brothers' animated adaptation of Watchmen, and I thought it was pretty bad, actually. Which is unfortunate because I really wanted to enjoy this animated project. I'm a fan of the original graphic novel, I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder's feature film adaptation, and I'm even a fan of HBO's recent sequel series, so I thought this animation was going to be right up my alley. But even as a fan of the Watchmen story, I couldn't help but find this animated adaptation to be surprisingly boring. The animation is quite stiff, the dialogue is painfully wooden, the soundtrack is dreadfully dismal, and the story lacks a natural narrative flow. So when you add all of these elements together, you get an animated project that feels rather lifeless, which is extraordinarily disappointing. When Alan Moore first made Watchmen, it provided social commentary on political issues, as well as on the state of comic books at the time. When Snyder made his feature film adaptation, it provided a grounded and realistic take on the superhero genre that was rarely seen in comic book movies at the time, and when HBO released their sequel series, it also provided commentary on modern political issues, on top of giving us deeper insights into the original comic book characters. But now, nearly 40 years after the graphic novel was released, 15 years after the feature film was released, and 5 years after the sequel series was released, the animated adaptation of Watchmen doesn't have anything to say about anything. This animated feature doesn't provide us with any meaningful insight into the original comic book characters. It doesn't have anything to say about the state of comic books or comic book films, even in spite of the fact that the MCU has been going strong for 16 years, and it doesn't feature any social commentary whatsoever. And I understand that a direct adaptation shouldn't necessarily need to do any of those things, but that's totally against what the spirit of Watchmen is all about in the first place. So, if this animation was never going to add anything to the Watchmen mythos, then I don't understand why it was made in the first place. I guess Warner Brothers just wanted to have an easy way to make money off of hardcore Watchmen fans. But since this animation had nothing of value to offer, Watchmen Chapter 1 would unfortunately not get a recommendation from me. And while I hope that Chapter 2 will end up being better, given how bad I thought Chapter 1 was, I will probably be skipping out on seeing Chapter 2 altogether. But I appreciate anyone who stuck around to hear my thoughts on this animated adaptation, so as always, thanks for watching.